I'm Anna. I'm a backend engineer at Capital One. My team work in microservices space. We basically, I support our acquisition flow, and I'm responsible for our code pipeline infrastructure. My team is heavily using AWS. So very excited to introduce you to it. Yeah, I'm gonna give it next to my colleague Fatima.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fatima, and I'm an associate software engineer at Capital One. I'm more specifically a backend engineer, and I'm part of the Looney Tooney team, which is the credit underwriting team. And we're basically responsible for doing credit limit adjustments, increasing or decreasing credit limits, and also determining how risky a new applicant might be. And now I'll pass it off to Azade.
Hi, everyone. I'm Azade. I'm a software engineer at Capital One. I am a member of the customer management team, and in our team, we are in charge of repricing credit cards. It is mostly backend, and we extensively use AWS services.
Yeah, so starting off, the agenda for today's workshop is we'll start off with an introduction to AWS and why it's so widely used in the industry. Next, I'll be going over some software you'll need to install and set up before you can actually walk through the workshop. And then Anna will kick it off and go over the workshop overview, and then actually walk you guys through it. And then in the end, we'll have a dedicated time to answer any questions, but also feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and then we'll also be answering them as we go along. Next. Yep, I'll pass it off to Azade now.
Yeah, thank you. Before starting the workshop, I'm going to provide a brief introduction on cloud computing and AWS and how Capital One use AWS. Cloud computing actually is the on-demand availability of computer system resources, including, or for example, storage and computing power, while the customers or the users do not need to own those resources, or they do not need to directly manage those resources. Different benefits are mentioned for cloud computing. The most important one is that it's the efficiency and cost reduction. It also can provide data security. It provides scalability. If the users or customers need more resources, the cloud computing platforms can provide more services. It also provides mobility. The users can use services from anywhere and from any devices. The other important benefits is disaster recovery. It is provided by duplicating data and services and resources in different regions or different data centers. And it also provides more control for the users over the resources that they are using. Yeah, next slide, please. Thank you. What is AWS, or Amazon Web Services? AWS is a subsidiary of Amazon that provides cloud computing platforms on a metered pay-as-you-go basis. The history of AWS gets back to 2006. When the first generation of AWS services were launched, the first AWS services were simple storage service, or S3, and the other one was Elastic Compute Cloud, or EC2. Nowadays, AWS provides more than 200 services that can be used for compute, storage, database, networking, machine learning, analytics, security, containers, and many more other type of services. And they have millions of customers that include startups, large enterprises, and government agencies. Yeah, next slide, please. And how Capital One uses AWS. Capital One, as you know, is one of the largest banks in the United States that is also present in Canada. In 2012, the leadership of Capital One announced that they want to build a tech company that does banking instead of a bank that uses technology. And for doing this transformation, the leadership decided that the Capital One should move to the cloud. In the November of 2020, the Capital One announced that all that on-premises data centers of Capital One are migrated to AWS, and Capital One became the first US bank that goes all on the cloud. Next slide, please. Thank you. And before finish, I wanted to mention that AWS is not the only cloud computing platform in the industry. It has like very powerful competitors such as Google Cloud Platform, Microsoft Azure, IBM Cloud, and others. But AWS is still like the most popular one in the industry. Yeah, I'm done now. I pass it to Fatima to start talking about the workshop.
Yeah, so before we can get started with the workshop, there are a few things that you need to get set up and installed. So for example, you'll need to make sure you have access to a GitHub account so that you can access the code that we'll be posting later on, and then also that you have Git on your machine. You'll also need to download and install Node.js, so that'll allow you to create a React app on your machine. And then finally, and the most important, is that you'll need an AWS account. So the one thing to note is that when you register for an AWS account, it will ask you for your credit card because, as Azade was saying, it's a pay-as-you-go service. So there are other services where when you use them, AWS will charge you for it. However, there's no need to panic because the service we're going to be using today, AWS Amplify, it's absolutely free. So even though AWS will have your credit card information, you won't be charged anything. Yep. And now I'll pass it on to Anna to take it away.
Okay, so yeah. We're going to show you a video where you'll see how to deploy React app to AWS Amplify in real time. But before that, just quickly what the workshop is all about. Basically, what you're going to do today, we are going to create a simple React app. We are going to initialize our GitHub repository, and we're going to deploy our app to GitHub. From there, we're using AWS Amplify. We are going to host our app on the cloud. So I guess just super quick overview of what is React. React is a framework that is used to build single-page applications. And AWS Amplify is Amazon service that is used to host and deploy single-page applications, which is something that React will help you, and as well as static websites, so websites with serverless infrastructure. Right, so that is the overview. And I don't see our video. Okay, here it is. It just needs a second to load. But yeah, this video is going to consist of two parts. I'm going to take a quick moment after the second part, and you'll please feel free to ask any questions you have on what we've learned so far. Also, throughout the whole workshop, please feel free to use the chat to ask any questions you have at any moment of time. Okay, I'm going to start playing video now. Hello everyone. This workshop is going to go over deploying your React app using Amazon Amplify. So there's going to be three parts. First, we're going to create our simple React app. Then we're going to initialize our GitHub repository. And finally, we are going to deploy our app using AWS Amplify. So let's start from the beginning, which is step one, creating your React app. First step here is initializing your app, running command npx. X and then you are test. This command does take around 5 minutes, so I actually already run it. I literally just typed exactly what I showed you and pressed enter. And that resulted in this output. So by the end of it, you're supposed to see a happy hacking message. And if your installation was successful, you can now navigate to your freshly created. In my case, I called it test amplify. So now I have a folder named test amplify. If I navigate there and if I run npm start command, it's going to start my app locally by opening a tab on my browser and running it on port 3000. So let's do just that. I just execute the command. While it's loading the page, just a quick note about npx command. You do need to have node and npm installed on your machine in order for npx command that creates React app to be successful. So looks like our page is loading. Let's give it just another minute. It might be a bit slow, especially if you're starting for the first time. Perfect, and here we are. If you're able to view this screen after you start, your installation was successful. Congratulations. Let me start my server here. Perfect. And that's the end of part 1. Now let's move to part 2, which is, in this case, is going to be initializing GitHub repository. So how to do that? First thing first, go to your GitHub account and navigate to your repository, to your repositories. So in my case, let me open that up. So let me open it. Okay. So this is my GitHub account, and if you see there is repository tab, if I click on it, it's going to have a big green button that says new. So click on that, and you're going to get to create repository page. So here, just give your repository name. I'm going to go with exactly the same name as my local folder, which is test amplify, and I'm going to keep everything as default. I'm going to click enter, and here you are. This is my empty GitHub repository. Okay. Now let's move to step to second part of step 2. Basically, now we need to initialize. We need to connect our local folder with our GitHub repository. So I need to connect my local test amplify with my GitHub repository test amplify under my GitHub account. All right, so that was the end of the first part of the video. So here you've learned how to create your basic React app, and we were able to start it locally. And we also created a repository in our GitHub account. And what's going to happen in part 2, we are going to connect our local folder with our GitHub repository, and then we're going to use AWS Amplify to host it on the cloud. If you have any questions about first part, you have a couple of minutes to ask them right now. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question if you have any about the first part. Okay, if there is no question, we are going to proceed to second part. Let me do just that. Just sorry, 1 second. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So moving to part. And welcome everyone. No, we're moving to part 2. Perfect. Let's give it just a couple of seconds to load. Okay. So let's initialize our GitHub repository. First thing first, I first need to initialize
Sorry, Anna, it seems the audio is disconnected.
I'm sorry, but there is problem with audio.
There's no audio.
There was no audio all this time.
Yeah, maybe you need to start from the beginning.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. How about now? First thing first, I first need to initialize under my test amplifier folder. So I'm going to run git init command and just press enter. Perfect. Next step is going to be to actually connect my local with my remote by doing git at origin, and then I'm going to go and copy the URL under my test amplifier repository, and I'm going to paste it here. Okay. Origins, I'm git remote at origin. Okay, let's try it again. Perfect. So we are connected. Let's just make sure that this command was successful. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to push my local files to my remote repository. Check. Currently, there's I'm in range main, and currently there's no comments available. So what I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to add all of the files that I have. Going to connect them. Let's just call this initial. And finally, I'm going to push my changes to my origin main range. I'm going to execute this command and just press enter. And here you are. Okay. So now, if I refresh my page under my GitHub account, I suppose to see all of the files. So you can see here, all the files that I had here got pushed to my remote repository, which is great. And that is the end of part 2. So now we're ready for our final part, which is we're going deploying our app using Amazon M5. So what I'm going to do here, I'm actually logged into my AWS account, and I'm going to look for amplified service. Okay, you can just do it by typing it in the search bar. So I'm going to go to AWS Amplify. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create a new app. I'm going to host that app. And I'm going to use GitHub as a way to upload my app. So I'm going to go ahead and pick GitHub and just click continue. If you're doing this for the first time, it's going to give you a pop-up where you would need to put your GitHub credentials, which is your username and password, exactly the same as what you used to log into your GitHub account. In my case, I've done this before, so I'm already my GitHub authorization has already been done. So all I have to do now is to go over here and pick the repository with the code that I actually want to host. In my case, I'm going to go and select test amplify repository. I'm going to click next. And that's basically it. Seems like we are good to go. I'm going to press next one more time. It will give me a quick screen, and I click save and deploy. It's going to start the deployment. So let it start running. It might take some time since it's going through multiple stages here. As you can see, it needs to provision, build, deploy, and finally verify that everything is good. All right, and this is the end of the practical part of this presentation. So it takes about 5 minutes to deploy everything, but if everything was successful for you, if everything was successful for you, you're supposed to see the screen. So as you can see, I see my app toolbar, and I can see that it went successfully through all the stages. By the end of deployment, you'll also be provided with a link. And so I'm talking about this link. It's going to be at, right under the toolbar of your app. You can also click on the actual toolbar. If you click on it, you'll be able to view your application. But if you see here, it's not my local. I'm not running it locally. I'm actually running it on the cloud using AWS Amplify. So you can see the host name here. And yeah, that is the end of the actual workshop.
Yep, and just before we end off, we'd like to provide you guys with some resources that we use throughout the workshop. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can add on to the AWS website, so if you want to learn how to add like a backend or maybe an authentication process, you can refer to the first link. And as a little gift, we provided you guys with a template that you can use for your own personal website. So if you go to the fourth link and you copy that GitHub repository, it'll have a template. So Anna, if you could go to the next slide. If you run the page, you'll get something like this, where you could just customize the page, add in your own information, and use it as your own personal website. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, and that is the end of our workshop. We'll now open the floor to any questions you guys may have. Please add them, please either ask them in the chat, or if you'd like, raise your hands. And I think one of the TOHacks representatives can take you off, and like you can speak live. Yeah, we'll be sharing the GitHub link right after, so just keep an eye out in our Discord channel for the Capital One channel, and I'll be posting them there. Yes, slides will also be shared. Don't worry. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions about how to modify the template, or if you're digging into the code and it's not making sense, some of us will be available on Discord, and you can just ask your questions there, and we'll be ready to hop on and help you guys out. So there's a question saying that, will we get AWS Amplify credits if they have? I'm assuming by credits you mean when AWS charges you for amounts. Unfortunately, we won't be providing any credits as a part of this workshop. Yep. Any other questions? If not, once again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining our workshop. I hope you had a great time learning more about AWS and how to deploy your own React website and have a template now for your own personal website. So again, thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us on the Discord channel, and we'll be happy to help out.
I think there's just one question that popped up now. What makes this better than simply hosting on GitHub?
So I could take a crack at this question. So I wouldn't say one platform is better than the other. Our choice for using AWS is that it's a very widely used service in the industry. And a lot of companies really prefer to use AWS. And so we wanted to give you guys a little insider peek as to a few of the services that you could use and how they work. But you could also totally host the React website on the GitHub pages. Sorry, Anne, I cut you off.
No, no problem. I just wanted to add to this that AWS is also known for their scalability. Let's say if you don't have much visitors on your website, you probably wouldn't really feel the difference. But for big websites, when you can have spikes of visitors throughout the day, AWS is great in terms they can spin they have resources to scale to the demand and then scale back if you don't need it anymore.
And then there is one question about, does GitHub have a step-by-step instructions? So there are instructions in how to set up that template. So it would just be the simple commands of npm start. But I will also be posting these slides in the Discord channel, so you can also access the instructions there.
I think individual also asked like a follow-up question. Why pay for AWS for a personal website? I think you might have covered that in the previous question, unless you want to add on anything else.
We are not saying you have to pay AWS. Idea was just to showcase you what AWS can do. It's completely up to you where you want to host your template. That's why, for example, template is provided on the GitHub, and it's completely up to you. How do you want to go about it?
Yeah, and just to add on to that and to explain and on what Anna had said previously. So the reason why AWS would be charging you is depending on the traffic you get. So say you host this website and then you're getting hundreds of people accessing your website, then AWS would be paying for your, you would be paying AWS for that sort of like network distribution, and so that your website isn't overloaded.
Thank you. And I see another question. Do you think personal websites are a good way to showcase any development skills to companies?
Yeah, absolutely. It's extremely good for front-end developers because you're showcasing your skills and you're showing that you know how to create a website, how to host website, how to manage website, and how to make and also take care of making sure your website show up as part of Google search. But it's also good, even if you're not a front-end developer, it's good to have a visual. It's good to have one place where you can navigate everyone. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it, like especially for front-end, but for other categories of development too.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I see another one. How can we add our own domain to the site?
You would have to, if you want to have your custom domain, there's various services where you can buy domain. I know of, for example, GoDaddy, but there's lots of them. But like if you want a specific domain name, you need to pay for it. If you don't want to get AWS Amplify default host name.
Thank you. And another question I see is, what would you recommend as next steps for the website to extend our knowledge?
Yeah, so in order for next steps, there are quite a few different things you could do. So the one example we provided you guys is with a personal website template, but you can take the website in any different ways you want. So in the first resource that we provided, it will be on the Google slide. There are steps for you on how you can add, like, for example, a data backend to your AWS website, or how you can add like an authentication. So if you need people to sign in for whatever purpose your application might be, you can have like a login process, or your backend could store images that you want users to upload or download. And you can really do whatever you want with it. It's just one of the avenues we provided with you guys is a portfolio or a personal website.
Thank you. And if I have my domain already, how can I connect it to the AWS site?
Good question.
Anna, Azade, would you be able to answer this one? I'm not entirely sure.
I don't remember from the top of my head, but what we can do, I can send you a link with instructions later on. We can include it as part of these resources. I just don't remember from the top of my head, I'll be honest, but there is an option for sure.
Thank you. I think those are all the questions. Thank you so much, Anna, Azade, and Fatima. That was a really great workshop. Again, if anyone has any further questions, feel free to reach out on Discord. They'll be available with any answers. And also they've provided a bunch of resources already on the channel, so make sure to check them out. And if you have any further questions for the organizers, please make sure to message on the Ask Organizer channel. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your hackathon.
Happy hacking.
Thank you.